I moved in here in 1972, and the rent was $270 a month, including heat. I'll be 84 in May. And at my age, you don't know. It's a little while. Do you have 5 years? What will I be able to do at 90? It's very exciting to come in here every day. I'm never bored. There's just too much to do. Come in. Hello.
Nice to see you again.
My name is Ben Schoenzeit. I grew up in Brooklyn, in the same neighborhood as Woody Allen, in sort of the edge of Flatbush. Or where do we start? This large painting with the tie, it's a painting that has a lot of theater in it. It also has my favorite tie. One of these ties where people stop you on the street, man, I love your tie. Where'd you get that tie? That's my favorite tie. Single family houses, apartment houses on the corner. If you crossed over Ocean Avenue, you'd get into the big fancy houses where the doctors were. My studio's over here. The interesting thing is that Woody Allen grew up in an apartment house on the corner of my block. But I only knew, well, I don't know, it's not about Woody.
Oh, look at this light too.
Yeah, this doesn't last, so you want to take advantage of it. This is a second floor loft. I went to Cooper Union. My parents said, try architecture for a year, and if it doesn't work out, you can switch to art. I like the French curves, and I didn't like the slide rules too much, and the calculus, that was a little inconvenient. And then gradually I realized that to be an architect, you have to be a businessman. It's hard for me not to take your picture to get my camera. Ed Barnes, who's a famous architect, was my teacher. We were supposed to design our ideal home. And my home was a giant studio with a little house next to it. I was doing this and I was beginning to get a sense that if I got into architecture, this was not going to suit my personality. You had to be a responsible adult, which I put up as long as possible. I've never sat on this ladder. So I switched to painting. These enormous decisions that we make as children, that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm just going to do this. It's ludicrous. Maybe it was Susan Sontag or someone like that who wrote a book entitled, I Don't Like My Chin Anymore. If I write a book, it'll be, My Butt Don't Keep My Pants Up Anymore. When I was growing up in Brooklyn, you never went to Soho. There was nothing here. We went to Greenwich Village. Fred Leighton, Cafe Bois, Le Figaro. We wanted to sit in coffee houses and be depressed. And read Dostoevsky, that was what was cool. That was high school then. I don't know what it is now. But existentialism probably is not high on the list of the interests of most 16-year-olds. There's me working in on a painting with a projection in my painter pants, see? When Soho started, everybody around here worked. And they worked, if it was an electrician, he had his green pants and his green shirt and wore them for 2 weeks and then maybe washed them and maybe didn't. And the artist looked, I wore painter pants. You look like what your job was. And now people's job seems to be to present themselves as hip and current and beautiful. And you see people on the street, they prop their cameras up on a building and a little ledge, and you see a woman by herself putting the camera up and then, posing, and it's ridiculous. There's Miriam on the fire escape. When Soho was empty, now you're on the fire escape, everybody takes your picture. But then you can just sit out there and read the paper.
Perfect. Oh, the eye patch.
Eye patch. I've always drawn. It wasn't that I was interested in it. It was that's what I did. And I think it probably has something to do with my eye. Oh God, 5 years old is a very dangerous age. Kids would go out and play, and you knew two things: that don't go around the corner, don't cross the street. And we went over to this cute little girl who lived down the street basement, and I found an ice pick. And I wanted to impress this little girl. So I said, let's all go outside and I'll carve a tree. The first rule of sharp objects is never have the business end of anything sharp facing you. But I didn't know that. I was 5 years old, and I thought I knew absolutely everything. And so I picked up this ice pick, and we went out to the tree in front of my house, and started carving on the tree like this. And of course, it went into my eye. And for various reasons, something called sympathetic blindness, the eye was removed, and I got a prosthesis, a pretty good one. I was given things to play with to help with perception, to help with understanding depth, hand-eye coordination. By the 5th grade, I was painting Santa on the windows. If anybody needed any kind of art, if it needed someone to do Chinese calligraphy, get Benji, he can do it. And I could. Making things, really, was always a part of me. My earliest subject matter was pretty abstract. Our teachers were all abstract expressionists. They weren't teaching how to paint. Our teachers talked about energy and the picture plane, and I don't know, I didn't listen. I said, well, what do you want? And I'll do some of it, leave me alone so I can do more of it. Just the story of my life. I didn't do figurative stuff. I did a lot of Miro kind of things, sort of surreal things, which is what I'm doing now. What interests me about surrealism is it doesn't tell you a specific story, that you bring your own story to it. It's dreamlike in that it puts disparate things together, but there's some sense in it. It's going someplace unknown and seeing what you find there. And it's also easier than painting, like Da Vinci, And that never interested me. I didn't get it. I thought stuff was so old-fashioned. I've gotten over it. Da Vinci is now my favorite artist. I don't know how a human being could do that, whatever it is that he does. A lot of my paintings are about my personal experiences, for sure. Something happens, and you can't ignore it. When my parents died, I worked in black and white because color wasn't right, didn't feel right. This is my mother, who was a nightclub singer. That's me as a child. This was done around the time when my parents passed away, within a year or so. And gradually color came back. Because when I was painting in black and white, I really didn't notice I was just painting in black and white. It was, hey, well, here's an image. This is, I'm gonna make up these stories, like that one in the house. I really don't know what it means to be an artist. I've never been anything else. I think to be an artist, you spend your life doing what's interesting. But that's also true for engineers and scientists and I think everybody. When you see something, you have to do something with it. And some people make songs, and some people make paintings, and some people make films and sweaters, and people make all kinds of things. The earliest things I remember doing weren't drawings, but were clay sculptures. The summer that I graduated from Cooper, I was carving. I was drawing and carving. I wasn't painting at all. And the carving felt too good. Painting was more suffering. I just abandoned it. I walked away from it. Soho in the olden days, the things that you could find on the street because of the factories, what you now have on the internet, you could have in spades just walking around Soho. So Donald Judd across the street, he's working with plastic, with plexiglass and steel. So I started making things with whatever I could find on the street, which I continue to do. But now the junk is not so good. Anyway, this is the loft before it was renovated. I moved in here in 1972, and the rent was $270 a month, including heat. But the landlord fixed that. My last Con Edison bill was $1,000. So, and the rent has gone up, but it is a rent stabilized loft, thank God. And so I can afford to be here. I had ambitions to do large paintings. I wanted a high ceiling. And this showed up, and it's an L shape, which is unusual. This building was bought by Danny Johnson and Virginia Yeremayo, who somehow knew Rockefeller. So Rockefeller made it possible for him to buy this building, and they told me that there's a loft for rent here. I came here. It was just a mess. He had a dog and a cat, never walked them or cleaned up after them. All he would do was throw another bag of cat litter on the floor, and that was the cat box. There was no cat box. And that took up most of the space by the windows here. I came here with my wife, and we met for drinks. Drinks were more or less a bottle of Johnny Walker Black for each of us. We didn't know it would go that way, but that's what it was. And he had a floor-to-ceiling bookcase full of empty Johnny Walker bottles, except that most of them were full of roaches. I mean, it was disgusting in here. I found some demolition company. I don't think it took them 2 hours to clear this place out. I wound up buying the fixtures here instead of buying a loft across the street because I didn't want to be tied to a co-op and dealing with people and the issues of a building, which was really, really stupid. But I never thought that I would be here like forever. I planned something, bigger, kind of in France, actually. But then I'd have to learn French, and so I'm still here. You couldn't make me do anything as a kid. And because of my accident, I really got away with murder. My sister and my brother will take tap dancing lessons, and I can go to the penny arcade and play pinball machines. I can only make jokes out of things. I think the greatest challenge of my life is being an adult. And my eye, for sure. The eye is a big one because it shaped me. It made me introverted. One of the things about being old, which I am, regardless of what I think, is that you have to be careful about. You have to think about things that you didn't used to think about.
Yeah.
It's a little, how am I going to get up here? A month from tomorrow, I'll be 84. When you're 30 and you get a cough and you don't feel so well, when you're in your 80s, you get a cough and you think, if this turns into pneumonia, maybe this is it. You worry about your mind, and there's always that elephant in the room. I have friends who are on good terms with that issue, and an awful lot of friends that are dead. It's the big one. There are two big ones. One is when you get born, and the other one is when you get unborn. And it's been a good life. I've had a good life. But I didn't get that chateau in France.
Thank you so much for watching the video. The best way to support this series is to order a copy of my photography book, Artist in Residence, at the link in the description. The book is a collection of my photographs from the past 5 years documenting the most unique artist studios in New York City. I really appreciate your support, and so do all of the artists featured in the videos. Thank you.